Men who aren't dating. Why? I woke up to screaming and bright lights at my bedroom window at 2 a.m. At first, I thought maybe a car had broken down outside, but then I heard voices and what sounded like chanting. I stumbled out of bed, still half asleep, and pulled on a t-shirt. When I opened my front door, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. There must have been 30 people standing on my lawn holding up their phones with the flashlights on. They were all recording me, and some were even live streaming. Standing at the front of this mob was my ex-girlfriend Ginny, wearing a white dress like she was some kind of avenging angel. She had a megaphone in one hand and her phone in the other. Ginny pointed at me dramatically and announced to everyone that I was a serial cheater who had been dating multiple women behind her back. She said she was there to expose me and make sure everyone knew what kind of person I really was. The crowd started booing and calling me names while I stood there in my boxers and t-shirt, trying to process what was happening. I tried to ask Ginny what she was talking about, but she just kept shouting over me with a megaphone. She told the crowd that I had 3 other girlfriends and that she'd found texts on my phone proving everything. People in the crowd were shaking their heads and recording every second. One guy even had a professional camera set up like he was filming a documentary. The thing was, Ginny and I had broken up 2 weeks ago, but not because I cheated. I told her I needed to move back home to take care of my parents. My dad had just gotten diagnosed with COPD and needed help with everything. My mom was already in a wheelchair from her MS, getting worse. But when I explained this to Ginny, she called me a liar and said I was making up excuses to see other women. While Ginny kept ranting about my supposed cheating, the front door opened behind me. My dad shuffled out with his oxygen tank rolling beside him. The clear tubes were hooked up to his nose, and he was breathing heavy from the effort of walking. Right behind him was my mom trying to wheel herself through the doorway. The crowd immediately went quiet and started lowering their phones. "What's going on out here?" my dad asked in his raspy voice. The oxygen machine made a soft hissing sound as he stood there looking confused. My mom was squinting at all the bright lights and trying to figure out why there were so many people on our lawn at 2 in the morning. I could see some people in the crowd looking uncomfortable and embarrassed. I told my parents everything was fine and to go back inside. My dad wanted to stay, but I could see he was struggling to breathe. I helped wheel my mom back through the door while my dad followed slowly with his oxygen tank. Once they were safely inside, I turned back to face the crowd. Ginny had gone quiet, but she was still holding the megaphone like a weapon. "You want to know the truth?" I said loud enough for everyone to hear. I told Ginny I needed to move home to take care of my sick parents. She called me insane and accused me of cheating. She's the one who cheated on me 3 times, and I forgave her every single time. The crowd started murmuring and looking at each other uncertainly. I kept going because I was tired of being quiet about it. She told me she accidentally slipped and landed on her coworker's sausage. Then it was her personal trainer. Then it was some guy she bought a pretzel from at Auntie Anne's. 3 times she cheated, and 3 times I took her back because I loved her. But when my parents needed me, she couldn't handle not being the center of attention. Someone in the crowd asked how they even knew about this event. Turns out Ginny had printed hundreds of flyers and posted them all over town advertising a cheater-exposed party at my address. She promised drama and entertainment and told people to bring their cameras. Most of these people didn't even know her. They just showed up because they saw the flyers and wanted to see some drama. People started walking away looking embarrassed about being part of this. The guy with the professional camera packed up his equipment and left without a word. Within 10 minutes, most of the crowd had dispersed, leaving Ginny standing alone on my lawn, still clutching her megaphone. That's when I noticed the police car pulling up. 2 officers got out and walked over to Ginny, who immediately started trying to explain her side. But disturbing the peace at 2 a.m. with a mob of people is illegal no matter what your insane reason is. I watched from my doorway as they handcuffed her while she screamed about injustice and her right to expose the truth. The last thing I heard before closing my door was Ginny crying and yelling that this wasn't over, but it was definitely over. I checked on my parents, who were both awake and worried. I made them some tea and explained everything. My mom held my hand and said she was proud of me for standing up for myself. The next morning, I found out Ginny had been charged with disturbing the peace and inciting a mob. She also had to pay fines for littering because of all those flyers. I kept one of the flyers and used it to wipe my